friends! In today's video, I'm going to talk about the pitfalls of doing a lot of inner work, which is something that I feel like isn't talked about enough. And, of course, if you look at humanity as a collective consciousness right now, you could definitely say as a generalization that it would be good if people were to look more at themselves. But there are certain pitfalls in doing a lot of inner work that can also be quite dangerous and devastating to someone's life that I'm going to discuss today. First of all, fractal nature of the universe. The consciousness that we call humanity, the collective consciousness, every human being is a fractal of that collective consciousness. And so all the darkness that is present within every human being, or light if you have integrated that, but all the darkness that is present within humanity's unconscious is also, the seed of that weed is also present within every one of us. What does that mean? Well, there is a lot of darkness right now within humanity. And if you go explore your own shadow, that is also the doorway to tapping into humanity's unconscious shadow. Well, the shadow is by default unconscious. So if you combine that with the fact that what you focus upon, you get more of, it almost looks like the influx of darkness that you get when you do inner work is endless. And it's not endless, but there is a lot, and it very easily becomes overwhelming. And the moment that it starts becoming overwhelming, and this may not even be your shadow, the moment that it starts to become overwhelming, we feel that we're not in control anymore. And when we feel that we're not in control anymore, we are less prone to taking action in our own lives to make the things that we can control happen. So there's this inflection point when you do inner work where you start to become, or when you can start to become overwhelmed, where you actually don't even know if what you're working with is yours or whether it's collective. But either way, you're overwhelmed, you feel out of control, and because of that feeling out of control, you can start to become futile because of the overwhelm to making your own life into something that is worth living. And this can become especially problematic when you're starting to lose momentum because of going into triggers. For example, you're working on a task, you're creating something, and all of a sudden, all of these limiting beliefs start cropping up. And then you decide to do shadow work on the limiting beliefs so that you then can go on creating more freely. It's ridiculous because you lose all the momentum of creative flow that you had going on. And maybe you create something amazing just because of the limiting ideas that are cropping up. So it is very important when you do inner work that you stay connected to your own life and that you also take action upon the information that you have gained through the work that you've been doing. And actually, when I realized that whatever is happening in this world, you can totally take your own life into your own hands, there's enormous power in that. Okay, there's a dichotomy and you have to be able to hold those two perspectives, but there's enormous power in making your own life better despite everything that is happening in this world. There is another reason why always doing inner work whenever you are triggered is a problem. Because of the following reason. This philosophy that every unwanted situation that is happening in your life is somehow a reflection of some unconscious pattern that you have running because this reality is governed by the law of attraction. The thing is that because we're talking about our shadow, which is what we don't know, the moment when you're being triggered, for example, and you say, I'm being triggered, I'm going to do inner work to integrate this wound that is being triggered through this situation, that decision to then go inwards is based on the assumption that philosophy of law of attraction, unconscious, inner work is the way to attract a different reality. It's based on the assumption that philosophy is true. Because the moment that you decide I'm going to do inner work, a priori, you don't know that philosophy is true for that particular trigger that you want to work with. And therefore, it actually becomes a religious practice. So, a posteriori, when you have, unraveled this huge unconscious pattern maybe that completely explains why your reality is the way that it is, then it's like, oh my God, yes, this philosophy is true. But a priori, you don't know that because we're talking about the shadow. We're talking about things that you don't know. And I mean that the impulse to do shadow work is only a priori a religious practice. And linked to what I've just said, namely that you actually don't know a priori if this whole philosophy of law of attraction, unconscious, oh my God, every unwanted situation in my reality is something that I attracted is true. There is another problem with doing a lot of inner work that is linked to what I've just said. So you don't know a priori for sure that this particular situation in your life that is unwanted is a reflection of your unconscious. If you do inner work and you tap into collective energy that is self-similar to the pain that you are experiencing as a result of this unwanted situation, you can find validation in that collective energy of humanity because it's like you recognize it. And the thing is, we are suffering when we feel that we are isolated with our pain. When we find something that is validating our painful emotions, we don't feel alone anymore, so we feel good. When you are doing inner work and you tap into collective energy that you can find validation with, you might be under the impression that you're healing something because you get a relief, but the pattern in and of itself, if that even exists, because a priori we don't know, may not be resolved by doing inner work, tapping into collective energy. So in that way, if you keep on chasing that relief through finding validation, it can actually become a coping mechanism. And depending on whether you find healing through doing shadow work, it becomes either a tool for healing or a coping mechanism. So yeah, this is what I had for today's video, and I hope it was interesting. If you like this video, please hit the thumbs up and notification bell, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye!